Yeah, just put this like pretty well, like as close as you're
Right about
comfortable.
there, right?
Yeah, like Joe Rogan says, like an inch in front of your face or whatever, right?
What's an inch?
Right. I don't know. Depends who you ask, right? Right? Oh man. Well, I guess we'll jump right into it. Like I said, I don't really do like super formal questions.
Yeah.
I sometimes have a couple bullet points, but I find it just wanted it to be natural. And the feedback I've been getting, actually, I ran into. You probably don't know him. I can't even. He's gonna watch this too. He's gonna be pissed. I can't even remember his name. Skinner.
No, I don't think I do.
Anyway, he was saying he really enjoyed it, so I guess we're doing something right. But
Excellent. Comes off a little more natural.
yeah, 100%. And I know we've been talking about getting you here for a little bit, and I kind of been dropping the ball. I mean, life's busy. I know we're trying to train, work, life, all that good stuff. But I wanted to welcome Matt Short, our SNC specialist.
Oh, yeah.
Head coach at Fusion Athletics, as well as F45 in Dartmouth.
You'd be surprised how many people think it's the same thing just because they both start with F.
Oh, really?
I gotta explain to so many people. Yeah, I work at 2 spots.
Okay. So, I mean, first question for me, and thanks so much for coming on, by the way.
Oh man, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
Really excited. You always have some interesting guests, so I was curious when you asked me to come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, you got plenty of stuff going on for you. SNC specialist. What is an SNC specialist? Can you kind of start with that?
So it's funny, there's and you've probably seen it like for things like personal training, the terms get thrown around personal training, coach, strength coach, stuff like that. I would say kind of with the strength conditioning specialist. So that's a little more specific to sort of, I guess, the certification that I have through the National Strength and Conditioning Association. So based out of the States, they're kind of a governing body that have certain certifications. So it's nice that in the field to sort of set some standards as far as what's the kind of the general knowledge of all the coaches coming in, like and sort of having people have a common sort of foundation to then build out from. Any other profession, there's some sort of governing body, some sort of licensing within the profession, especially when we talk about the health field and stuff. So kind of that would be that strength conditioning specialist, just one of the certifications you can get through that NSCA, I guess.
Okay, how, like, excuse my like green or newness or whatever. I'm not really well versed in it, but when I was back in my like powerlifting, bodybuilding days, I kind of had like this idea at one time that maybe I wanted to kind of go down that like personal training kind of journey, where, into the dieting and the training and, it's in pretty good shape. And it kind of like was a question that was posed to me, like, do you train anybody? Kind of just come with a package, so to speak. Yeah. And at the time, like, there was a couple gals like working in the gym that we knew, and a few guys, and Joe.
Yes.
Yeah, big meathead Joe. He used to be small.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he used to be
Hard
one
to
of the
imagine.
trainers at the SMU gym.
Yeah.
Like at the tower, the original tower, the good old days. Now it's SMU Fit or whatever. But I remember doing my like powerlifting, bodybuilding training there, and he'd always come around. Like, he'd chat more than he worked, but we were students then anyway.
That's it.
But long and short of it, CanFit Pro was kind of like I think Good Life was putting it on, or maybe.
Yeah, it's still Good Life's one.
Is it still Good Life? And that is their own certification?
Yeah, and I don't know too much about that specific one as far as, who's the oversees it, but yeah, I know that's kind of the one that I think they push all their coaches to do and stuff and get certified through for their training.
Yeah. And what made you kind of go and get your certification that you did versus like the other ones? I guess there's probably a few certifications out there.
There's a lot, and I mean, like, and this comes around when I'm like kind of hiring coaches and stuff at a 45 or Fusion. Like, there is a lot of options, and unfortunately, sometimes there's kind of a low ceiling of entry for this one. You hear the old, like, just because you're a good athlete doesn't mean you're a good coach. Just because you're fit doesn't necessarily mean you'll be able to get someone else to their goals. So the one I got, so that certified strength conditioning specialist, it is one that you have to have a degree in some sort of sciences, like a bachelor degree. So, you know, there is sort of that foundational knowledge. Now, again, like you're seeing it now that a lot of people are able to get hands-on experience, learn through, you know, video tutorials, online courses and stuff. So it's not, having a degree is not the be all end all, but it is kind of a nice sort of threshold of, you know, do you have a base knowledge in sciences, in you know, things like the biology of and the physiology of how we grow and adapt to training? Do you have an idea of physics, how to manipulate, you know, the forces and the torques that the body's experiencing to try to get the most out of different body types, different muscle stimulus, that kind of thing. So I think the knowledge required to get that cert, and then a lot of what they cover, I think, is really good. It's very general. You know, it is a bit of a catch-all. It sort of has to be, right? Like you can't, unless there's an established sort of like professional school. It's kind of tough to have super comprehensive literature. But I mean, even still, both the theory and kind of the application side of it, I think it covers a lot of really good knowledge that gives people. Again, it's not meant to give you everything you need to go, but it gives people that kind of first step to really build out from there.
Okay, yeah. So sounds like your certification maybe got a layer or two deeper than
absolutely,
you know, because of the prerequisites required to have it. So
yeah.
So yeah, I guess a little good segue. Like, what is a bit of your background? Like, can you give us a little bit of history on Matt Short? Like,
yeah, absolutely. So it's funny enough, you know, I was always kind of interested in training and whatnot. My dad was a strength conditioning coach for a time, and actually did a bit of competed in bodybuilding kind of within the Atlantic provinces.
Okay,
and did
so
pretty
you know
well.
A little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was interested in it right from there. You know, did sports growing up like a lot of people who end up in this field, and saw a bit of success in that, and went right through the end of university. And again, like similar sort of pathway that you'll see a lot of student athletes take, you end up in kinesiology, right?
Yeah.
It's something familiar. It's something, you know, but I did my undergrad up at UMB, and the kin program then even was really good. Like it seemed like, you know, even if there wasn't like on paper a pathway to become this or that, you know, the profs and the academic advisors and stuff really almost had an established path, and kind of there seemed to be a lot of like communication between the different courses, and you know, a lot of opportunity to get hands-on experience, which I think is extremely important. So not just, you know, learning it all from the textbook, but actually seeing how it works, seeing what's really feasible in a realistic situation versus, you know, what the perfect optimal situation that you get from the textbook is, right? So
yeah. So you get that real life applicability,
big time,
and then you apply the theory, mash it together, get a good product out of that.
Yeah, and not only that, I'm stubborn and cheap, so like I don't like to buy programs or do other ones. So I like to kind of, you know, on top of that, got to start to apply it to my own training and whatnot as well.
So you kind of throw that in the wheel, see if it works for you, see if it could be applicable to your clients, where you can kind of fit it in.
Yeah, I'm my first kind of test gerbil there.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you from New Brunswick?
No, I grew up in Fall River actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so not too far outside Halifax.
Oh, right on. What pulled you to do kin in UNB?
It was wrestling. Like as far as the kind of the university programs that were available, it was, you know, if you wanted to stay you know, east of Toronto, you're going to Concordia, you're going to at the time Memorial had a program in Newfoundland, and then University of New Brunswick.
Right on. And that's kind of your bread and butter. That's where you started, eh?
Yeah, that was you know, that's kind of what it got me to where we ended up meeting there at BJJ.
Yeah, and you're teaching us a little bit of your secrets there on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Oh, yeah, it's been fun. It's funny. I'm like, you know, I feel like I sound like a broken record. Everyone's like, "Are we doing wrestling today?" I'm like, "No, we're doing BJJ on the feet."
Right.
We're doing this stuff that, you know, I've kind of and you know, it's half joke, half serious, but just stuff. It's not like a straight wrestling class in the no-gi or a straight judo class in the gi. It's very much what's applicable to BJJ. It's funny, it's a similar lens I do have to take to strength and conditioning, especially when we're looking at athletes or people with a little more specific scenarios, whether it's health conditions, mobility issues, you know, glaring strength deficiencies. Like it's taking things from one context and bringing these principles over to something else.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, like the different kind of how would you say, disciplines, I guess we'll call them. You know, you need to kind of work inside of the frameworks and the rule sets that they have. So like judo would have a different rule set than BJJ, as well as like, although some similarities, and then back to like BJJ to wrestling, very similar submission style wrestling. But again, different rule set, different things work in these different disciplines. So yeah, it's great that is something that you're doing not only in your profession, but also, you know, teaching us. You take what applies to the actual thing we're doing with your past experience and really kind of helps us out and kind of develop. So it's been really great too, because the last wrestling coach we had was at the old gym, Cornwallis, Jordan. Gee, jump in. I'm bad with names today.
Oh man, and someone mentioned this guy's name. It was one of those kind of like I've heard the name before, but can't put a put a face to it.
Yeah, and that was very new. Like I was still a white belt. I might have just got my blue belt before he left. Oh, Jordan Roy. Yeah, I think that's what his name.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then he left. I think he was going to law school or RCMP or vice versa, one of the two. And yeah, he left because I think he's originally from that area too. So him and his partner left, and I think they're doing pretty well out there. But yeah, tell us a little bit about the rest of your skill set. Like you got your
yeah. So funny enough, judo was something I started back when I was like 6 years old, and I did it for I think a year and a half, 2 years, and then like many. No Canadian kids, I found hockey, right? And that took up the schedule for a couple of years. And I think
throw a rock any direction, you'll hit a pond.
That's exactly right. And I think by about, I think I was 13 or so. I think it was grade 8, if I remember correctly. And I was there was a constant, spring leagues, summer leagues, then the actual season. I was almost like a 13-year-old kid, and I was tired of that sport. And I was like, and I remember like my dad was big into hockey. He was like a fantastic hockey player too when he was younger. But I remember being like terrified to tell him. I was like, oh my God, like I gotta tell him I don't want to play hockey. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. I'm like, yeah. I was like, yeah, you have to do something. And I'm like, I think I want to go back to judo. And I ended up back there, and within about a month or two, there was actually a friend of mine who. Eventually down the road, we got our black belts together.
Oh wow!
And he and I, it was awesome. He and I were on the kind of, I guess, call it the provincial team, and traveled together a lot.
Sweet.
But he was there, and his dad was talking to mine. It's like, hey, I have him over at the wrestling club. It was in Halifax, kind of just outside the city at the time, and want to go try it out? And I was like, yes, like yeah. I want to learn how to do the FU and a choke slam and stuff. I'm like, get there. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like,
oh, you thought it was WWE, man.
It's like, oh yeah, let's go. I want to go to wrestling. It's like, get there. I'm like, this isn't wrestling. It's like, oh, but within a week or two, I was just hooked on both, right? And it's funny, I was never like, when I was younger, I was never super athletic. Like I was a little bigger, I could throw my weight around, so I played goalie in hockey. It was a good fit. But like when I found these sports and found that really kind of found a little bit of success at first, like it really kind of had me bought into just these two. Like everything else, I was playing some of the things like lacrosse, I was swimming in the summers a little bit competitively, and just everything else, like, no, we're good, like let's stick with these two. And then continued on through both, right through junior high and high school, and had a little bit of success with some medals nationally, and a couple just out in like the States and stuff. And grade 12 rolled around. It was time to sort of pick and choose one or the other. So I, wrestling fit nice. I was, UMB was accepted to the KIN program, and it seemed like a good fit. They had a lot of really talented guys, a lot of guys who were, national team, world team, international medalists, at the university national medalists, like coming top 2, top 3 kind of deals as a team, and a lot of individual, golds. So it was just kind of it was sort of a best kept secret sort of thing, this little program in Atlanta, Canada, along with, the school it was a good fit. So picked wrestling and did that through my undergrad degree.
Nice, man. Yeah, back home, like a little envious for, like, I grew up down in Yarmouth County, so like not a lot of people, and I wasn't even right in Yarmouth, like the town. I was like 25, 30 minutes outside in like a little community called Argyle. So like between our like elementaries, middle schools, and high schools, like we'd be lucky to put a hockey team together.
Yeah.
And then when we played in minor hockey, we'd play with the Yarmouth kids. So there was no judo, wrestling. I think we had like karate.
Yeah.
And that was like, you know, not to shit on karate people, but like when I was a kid, I just wasn't like, there was something about it that just I wasn't like in. It didn't pull me in. Like,
yeah.
And yeah, we just didn't have the opportunity. So if there's one thing, and if there is, like if we're blessed to have a child in the future here, like I don't care if they're male or female, like definitely doing some wrestling.
Well, that's like from
or gymnastics or both.
That's that's like from a long time ago. I said, you know, if I ever have kids, and now I'm very lucky. I have two fantastic little girls.
Congratulations! How old?
Thank you. I got Olivia's just over 2.5, and Marion just had her couple days before Christmas. So,
yeah, that's what I thought. You just, yeah.
That's it. I was at the gym. I was literally you know, one of the guys at the club I'm doing programming for. So I came in to check up on his workout before Saturday, before noon class, and my wife calls me and says, "Hey, I think you need to come home now." I'm like, "Okay, yep, gone." Okay. I was in my gi pants, like.
See ya. Hey, Doc.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, like. You know, real recent, and it was kind of funny. I was at the club, but yeah, it's for a long time, and I've talked to a lot of people, even in wrestling and stuff. Like everyone was kind of on the same page. It's like you know, first thing I'm gonna do is put my kid in gymnastics. Next thing, grappling, and I think, you know, and I'm a big proponent in long-term athletic development. I know when that kind of phrase got thrown around originally, it was kind of, people scoffed at it, but it's kind of as far as like mentally and physically developing someone, and not just for high performance sport, but just for the rest of their life. I think there is sort of a process that can be followed, but I think the best one is that gymnastics and you know, that grappling, just because there's nothing better for the body awareness. And you know, at that age and stuff, that's how they're going to build strength. It's coordination as well as strength, but it's their body weight is more than enough. You know, it's I think second to none. And then the next one, when they get a bit older and a little more coordinated, because you know, and that's in my training too. I think strength is the foundation of everything, because you know, it improves. You know, if you're stronger, you're more coordinated in your movement. You're going to be faster. You're going to be more efficient, so your conditioning goes up, right? Like it all starts in that strength base. But even at kids, if they're not strong enough to be, or coordinated enough, then, you know, it's kind of like they're not quite getting as much out of maybe some of those other sports, right? Of course, get them active, get them fun, get them in love with the sports. But as far as I think, like what's doing that is, you know, having fun, learning to love physical activity, as well as giving them a really important developmental skill. It's gymnastics and it's grappling.
Yeah. And do you find, especially for kids, like it gives them that confidence that like they are strong enough to complete like the drill at the level that they feel is like, you know, to standard. Like I think it's a big confidence thing too, just to keep them so they can keep up essentially.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even if like, you know, you're not technically good at a sport, you know, there's going to be aspects of it, like whether, you know, I train a lot of hockey athletes. So even at the younger age, right? Like they can, you know, they might be a little faster at skating because they got stronger in the legs, right? Like that confidence really is instilled in the gym. And of course, maybe not like at the you know, the toddler level of my kid in gymnastics now, but you know, when you get to like 5, 6, 7, 8, you know, it's like you start seeing things like just the hand you're dealt genetically, right? Like some people just are naturally bigger, stronger, excel at these sports, and some of these kids don't. When you get them in things in the weight room where, you know, if you come in, your starting weight is, you know, it's a goblet squat, and a kid's grabbed a 45 pound, his other smaller, weaker friend is grabbing a 20 pound, like it's still a win for them when they come back the next week and they're both up 5 pounds, right? It's a real confidence builder. It's that, you know, you versus you every week sort of thing, right? And it's kind of it's you know, if you set those little goals and kind of pay attention to that and come in with some intent and some effort and try to, you know, up that each time, you get those little wins, those little victories. And then just when you start to physically see yourself get stronger and faster and more athletic, it's whether you're getting better necessarily at like a sport or not, like it's just that self-confidence that comes with it is just second to none. I don't know how many messages I've got from parents within, you know, the first month or two, it's like, oh, just my kid's completely different now. They carry themselves differently. They talk differently. Their posture is different. Like everything from, I think the gym is, there's a lot of lessons and a lot of skills to be learned there beyond just the training.
Well, that's awesome, man. Yeah, that sounds super fulfilling. Like you can be a part of their development, and the parents appreciate it, and obviously the kids are getting better, and I'm sure they're appreciating it as well.
Yeah, it's funny. I do work with a lot of youth athletes, and it was something like, even from when I was, I think, 16, it was just happened that I was getting dropped off. My dad would drop me off at the same time as my little brother. So his practice for judo was right before mine, kind of thing. So I was there. Yeah. It's like, oh, I might as well volunteer and coach, and offer to be set of eyes. And so even from there, just getting to work with youth athletes, did some coaching through university, and even a little bit on the wrestling side of things when I came back after, kind of before everything sort of shut down with COVID and stuff a couple of years ago. But so definitely got to work with youth sport a lot. Not something I necessarily sought out to do, but especially with Fusion, it's pretty well exclusively youth athletes, kind of U18 and down, and you get a lot of that sort of, to appreciate the gains that they make, just getting stronger, faster, more powerful, but also like the other things that they, the character development, the becoming more, fit, mentally resilient as well as physically resilient, the confidence, all that stuff.
Yeah, because doing hard stuff sucks.
Yeah.
But getting through it feels good.
That's, man, they put that on a t-shirt.
Right? TM.
we got evidence now.
Right, evidence.
It's dated.
Yeah, 100% copyright. Yeah, man, and I would assume that having a hand in helping out your brother's judo class, and doing some early on coaching in the wrestling and kind of helping out there, I'm assuming that's kind of what kind of maybe directed you into kind of the profession you find yourself in today.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always enjoyed kind of coaching and working with people and kind of, helping them along to that next step, whether it's, I'm working with them for 3 months or I'm working with them year round, right? Like it's a, like you said, rewarding, very fulfilling, profession.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, and I mean, I was all about fitness. I'm not clanging and banging the weights like I used to, but I'm still getting after it. So, yeah, I can definitely attest to the fulfilling part. And you're a great coach as well. Like a few of the wrestling classes we've done, it's been super eye-opening, and it's been a lot of extra tools in my toolbox. So it's a great asset to have. Yeah,
I appreciate it, man. So it's been it's a lot of fun. I try to even just as far as just scrolling through Instagram, always looking for things to add, and whenever I'm going live with you guys, looking at sort of the things that work, that doesn't work, that transfers, or what needs to be tweaked to fit the sport. But definitely the coaching helps me have a very critical eye of my own training to make sure that I'm getting the most of it too. So it's definitely I'm giving back, but definitely getting back lots.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask that. I talked with Steve a little bit, and I never really asked specifically the question, but you find coaching, is it a hindrance or is it helping your own personal game?
I think it's helping, honestly. It's in a couple things. It's really making me think about what's working, what's not, what's I'm not just jumping into a takedown for the sake of I can hit this. I know maybe they're not going to react properly, so I can kind of get ahead of it and get a takedown because I know a little bit more on the feet than maybe the guy I'm training with, right? But this is it's making me think a little more critically. It's helping sort of when I'm rolling with, guys like you or some of the upper belt and stuff, really helping me when I'm sort of thinking about how I want to roll competitively or be able to compete, what takedowns are going to work, what scenarios I'm looking for, what's open, especially guys that keep throwing on guillotines and stuff. When I'm shooting legs, it's okay, shit,
because that doesn't exist in the wrestling.
Exactly, right? You can leave your head up, and in a lot of ways are kind of encouraged or want to, right? It really there's when you throw the submissions in there, it changes some of the finishes and what you're looking for in the takedowns completely.
Yeah, it definitely throws a couple of wrenches in there when you're trying to figure it out for the jiu-jitsu part of it versus your old wrestling kind of habits, we'll call them.
Yeah. But it's all finding the general pieces that work in your context, right? I think a lot of the things from wrestling that transfers really well, and there's guys that there's always, the takedown guys making fun of guard pullers, but like there's guys that
I'm lazy, man. I pull guard all the time.
Oh man, but like it's funny, like even just working with gripping and positioning and stuff, like being able to create kind of a dominant situation for you that sure you pull guard, but the way you tie them up, you pull it with their posture halfway broken already, right? Like it's sort of, there's ways to use stand up still, even if you're a ground player. And I think there's just the concepts of pressure and constantly looking for openings and always off balancing someone. I think it's it transfers really well. There's a lot of that, that are just right in the forefront of all aspects of wrestling.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And there's a lot of anyway, I don't want to bore the people who are watching because they have probably no context unless they do jiu-jitsu. But like, when I'm pulling guard, like it's like kind of like a push-pull. Like it's not just, I'm not just sitting on my butt and then they blast by me and the next thing they're on my back and it's just a nightmare for me.
Yeah.
But I had a couple questions, I guess.
Absolutely.
More specific to like your profession. So you're head coach at a couple gyms.
Yep.
I guess, could you give me like your ideal like client profile for like, I know you kind of mentioned in passing one's more U18 under U18, but say, let's start with F45. Like, what is F45? Like who's the best person to be walking in that door for you?
Absolutely. So we're over in Dartmouth Crossing there. It's interval training, right? So it's circuit training. It's set up. You have a workout set up for you every time you come in. So one of the nice pieces about that, I'd say, is it's very much for general population, right? It's, you're coming in. You have the workout set up for you. One of the nice pieces is they have TVs at the front of the room. So, say there's 9 exercises in the workout, like those 9 will be up depending on where they are in the room. So you have it on a loop. So it's like, okay, I don't have to try to squint and read a board at the front of the room or remember an entire workout off a 1 minute description kind of thing. So it's very much general population. The workouts are put together it's short rest time. So that drives up the intensity of the workout. So you're not going to be necessarily lifting as heavy as, say, like a traditional, strength workout necessarily.
2 to 3 minute rest.
Exactly, right? This is like
3, 2, 3, 4 reps, whatever.
Exactly. This is like 10 to 30 second rest, right? Yeah. So it's quick. A lot of the movements are, hitting multiple muscle groups. So the idea is efficiency, right? It's a 45-minute workout with 2 trainers in there. So, not everyone has the time in their day to go in and do an hour and a half or to hop on the mats and then go lift after, right? Like it's not everyone has that luxury. So it's really good for the general population. The idea of the training is, depending on the day, it's cardio focused, strength focused, a bit of both, right? So it's hitting your heart, your lungs, your muscle endurance. It's loading the bones, tendons, ligaments. So it's very much, the word functional training gets thrown around, and it's like, it's almost been like ruined, kind of in social media. It's like, oh, this is functional. It's like doing a fucking bird dog with a plate on your back on a Swiss ball. It's like, what is functional about that, right? And like on the other end, it's like, if you want to get bigger biceps, well, bicep curl is probably the most functional exercise you can do, right? So what is?
Yeah.
So but
it's those buzzwords people throw around.
Right. But in this case, I think it is sort of the idea that it's improving physical quality of life. So improving fitness, improving your strength, and then things like the exercises are, a single leg RDL, right? There's balance there as far as gaining strength on one leg, gaining stability, using those, those small muscle groups, all that kind of stuff, right? The cardio is not just sitting on a bike. That if you're someone who maybe runs a lot or already bikes a lot, right? It's like, oh, my hips are sore and stuff. It's like, oh, well, you're already putting yourself in a short position. It's a lot of exactly, right? So we don't necessarily want you to be sitting on a bike for an hour, right? Yeah. That might be a piece of your workout, but it's just more of the same wear and tear. So a lot of the cardio, it gets a little creative as far as it's a med ball pickup drop. It's very much almost like some of the unconventional strength movements, kind of the modified strongman and modified sort of CrossFit movements. Like you don't see, it's the circuit training, but you don't see the same kind of like the Olympic lifts. Like they're not really meant to be done
you're not doing
10 times with a 30-second break and then do 10 more and then do that 10 times, right? Like they're a power developer, they're a big strength developer, right? So I think F45 on some of those other high intensity kind of interval training and group based fitness ones, like they've the programming sort of builds upon making it a little more scalable and accessible to, like I said, the general population. We have members that are 18. We have members that are pushing 70, right? Like and on top of that, it can't be underestimated, the power of like a good training group, the motivation, just like good hard training. But obviously people do need like specifics, do need a little bit of, individual needs based on their health, based on their strength, mobility, training experience. So within that general program, the coaches that I hire there, it's the point, that I want them to have a really good coach's eye, a really good ability to break down movements. So within that general programming, like we do still have a lot of people sort of doing their own thing and working on their own goals within that program too. So it's very much for it's very accessible to everyone, very scalable for everyone, whether you're brand new to fitness or whether you just want to go all out for the whole 45 minutes kind of thing.
Yeah. And makes sense, F45.
Exactly, right? It's right in the name.
Just for my own knowledge, you kind of breezed over it a little bit, but just to get some specifics, if I can say it.
Yeah, of course.
So general population, built mostly for anybody at any skill set.
Absolutely.
They can walk in the door. Now, is it set up like our jiu-jitsu gym? There's like a 6 a.m. class, a 7:30, a 9. How like you got scheduled classes? You don't just come in and do like a workout.
Exactly. And funny enough, there is, without getting too much into it, there is some of that stuff coming.
Okay.
We are at the sort of, I guess, the mercy of being a franchise, of the franchisor. So
Marky Mark, right?
Exactly right. I think he's one of the the principal share owners or shareholders.
I love Wahlberg.
Oh yeah, he's a beauty. He's intense. But maybe he'll make his way to our gym eventually.
You let me know, I'll be there.
Yeah, of course. Man. I think most of the city will be there. We'll have a lineup going from the crossing right back across the bridge. But yeah, it's very, very accessible to anyone. Very much. And when you come in, we can accommodate lots of schedules. Like we have a morning class, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 9:30. Lots of people do the daycare drop off or if they're working at home, that's the perfect, exactly right. Perfect time to get your first little work break out. We have 12:15, so the lunch crowd, and then a pretty packed evening slot there at 6 in the evening, getting people after work kind of deal. So that's
the sweet spot.
It is.
6
oh
o'clock.
Yeah. Well, this time of year, it's funny. Like you see the trend this time of year. It's starting to get a little lighter. So those morning classes get a little more busy. And
we're getting into March now. Baby.
Man,
the resolutioners are out.
Man, it's funny. Like people talk about resolutioners and stuff, but like
you guys are pretty consistent.
You see, we're pretty consistent, but like they're usually filtered out within that first 2 weeks, and you almost see like a second sort of re-resolution come like end of February, March. Like, oh shit, I
really didn't
done.
do it.
Like, all right, we're gonna try this again. Like, and I find you get people who stick around a little longer out of that second wave more than you do the first ones right out the get go, because motivation's great, but it's that discipline that's a little more important. That behavior.
That's what turns the wheels, baby. That discipline.
Oh yeah.
I'll tell you, I shared with you there after training. I don't know if it's been the season or the snow or just felt February's just been like, ugh. Like I'm just like, I did that ultra marathon at the end of January. I did supposed to do 52K. I come up a lap short, and that's because my hip was just screaming at me after it was like 35K around there. It was just like, hey, what are you doing? Like, you've never ran more than 25K. Stop now. And after that race, man, I just was like, my body was just like, you need a break.
Well, I mean, like, and kind of taking that into sort of the context of just sport in general, like that's why there's peaking and there's valleys and stuff, right? Like when you do a competition, like as putting say jiu-jitsu for example, right? Like when we do just live sparring in the club, like it's in the same context, even if you want to say it's scored or whatever, but just whatever reason that mental stress along with the physical stress, what the kind of the fatigue left on the body is so much more. So this was your event that you were training for, and not to mention it was an ultra marathon that probably just completely depleted your system, and things like
I was done.
And like talking about your hip, like things like bone and tendon and ligament take the courses of weeks to even months. And even same thing when you do something big like that, it depletes the nervous system itself and all those things that kind of the body uses to help fire that signal. Man. So it's when you do something like that, like it's no wonder that it takes courses of weeks or even like I said, months to recover from some of these things.
Yeah, man. But what do you say, like a guy like me, like, because I kind of got sucked into this. Like I was telling you, like I started running because like Joel used to make fun of me. This was before you were around. I'll try and find the picture. I'll send it to you. It's super funny. But like, like the jiu-jitsu instructionals that like PGJ Fanatics does, they usually have like a cover page for the DVD. Well, anyway, Joel made one of me when I first started because I was a lot bigger. I come from that powerlifting, bodybuilding background. So it's just like a big meathead. Yeah. Or not tall, but
you need some size to throw that weight around.
And he used to call me rest roll. Because every time he looked, I was resting against the wall.
Oh, okay. That's not so bad. I thought you were gonna say like that he was picking you for his rest roll.
Well, he could have said that too.
Okay, that's a little nicer,
right?
I guess.
I mean, I would have been fairly useless, half gassed on the mats anyway. But, yeah, he used to call me rest roll. So I was like, man, I can't be this guy.
No.
Forever.
No.
So I was like, well, this was early on. I was like, well, what can I do to get better cardio for jiu-jitsu? He's like, well, you could just start by doing more jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And I go, well, fair enough. And then I started doing that, and I trained like twice a day at the old gym, 6 a.m., 6 p.m., like through most of my white belt with them into blue belt, and basically until like the gym shut down for COVID. Yeah. Anyway, obviously you can only do so much jiu-jitsu, and you're just going to feel like you got run over by a truck by the end of the week. And that's what Thursday, no-gi, I remember 6 p.m., you'd get there for no-gi class. I just felt like I was in pieces. Anyway, I was like, well, I got to start doing something else. I want to want to improve, start running a little bit. And then it's just like I got this like bad habit that like anything I do, it just can't be recreational. Next thing I'm talking to these, I'm going to social runs because I'm like, group mentality.
Yeah.
Like, well, I hate running, but I like the results. So it'll be better if I can find a little niche that makes me want to go. And I did. I started running with the Halifax Hares, but they're a bunch of savages. They don't just it's a social run group, and they do a good job of doing the social thing. And it's very welcoming. They're super nice people. But then I'm running, first trail run, just trying to keep up. And these people are talking about, oh yeah, me and Tommy went and we did like 50K down to so-and-so, and it was beautiful and it was so great. And I'm like thinking like, they're talking like this was a walk in the park. And I can barely get through this 7-8K trail run.
Yeah.
And then, but I kept going, got a little bit better. And then the guys that do the social run started this race club. And then I got sucked into this little offshoot training group. And next thing I'm training for an ultra marathon.
Oh man. Extreme hobbyist.
But then I'm like, I feel like I need a break. But then I'm a huge David Goggins fan, Cam Haines, all these guys that are like, who cares if you're tired? Just keep up. Like, it's like, I guess the long and short around the question is like, what do you say to a guy like me that like, I know I need a break, but then I feel like I'm not supposed to.
Yeah. My ass is sore because I'm such a fence sitter, but like it's always like a bit of both. I'm very like it's mostly gray. It's not black and white. So like we've gotten to this age where there's things like things that'll track your bar velocity, right, for your training. Things that will the rings and the whoops and stuff that'll track your sleep and everything. So it's like people come in, it's like, oh, I can't train hard today. It's like, why? Well, my whoop score is shitty. It's like, well, who cares about your whoop score? Like,
right.
Some people it's almost
they live and die by that shit.
Yeah, so it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like my mentality is, my watch says I didn't sleep well. I mean, I don't know, maybe you rolled over on it and it moved it for 4 hours of your 9 hours sleep, and it tells you got 6. It's like, oh, I sleep shitty, and that mentality. We're so dependent on these tech things. And again, like I'm at a kin degree, I'm finishing my master's, which is taking me a little bit too long, but very much like there's a place for sports science and the theory and the textbook and stuff, but there's also feasibility, and there's also just learning to train fucking hard.
Right. Like, and that's where I come from, the background. Just like, Ronnie Coleman,
Arnold,
Lou, 10,000 Fist Disturb CD, and this old friggin' weight room back home. Like, it was just like, we just we didn't know about recovery.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you get probably, and it's funny because for, every Goggins, there's probably 1,000 broken and beaten people that just their body wasn't up to snuff, or just
Right.
his specifics, scenarios that he experienced until that point just set his body perfectly, along with probably genetics is always a piece too. It's like, it's like Tiger Woods started golfing at 4 and stuff. It's like, for every person that did that, there's a pile of bodies of people that did that and burnt out early, right?
Yeah,
so it's just a lot of, we take, it's social media and everything. We see all the extremes, right? You're flooded with people squatting over 500 pounds and then running a marathon off it, right? Like, and you don't know how long have they been doing that? Are they on any, special supplements?
Yeah, the old Mexican supplements, right?
but right, like, it's just it's that comparison versus and it's tough. But I'm a big proponent of, there is longevity. There is like my training. There's the term that people like to use, like vertical integration, where it's there's a bit of power, a bit of strength, a bit of speed, a bit of conditioning, a bit of hypertrophy throughout the week, and depending on the person, depending on how trained they are, this might be more or less appropriate, right? Depending on what their overall goal is, right? If your goal is to win a Nova Scotia powerlifting meet, then like maybe for a year or two, if you're working with me, who gives a shit about how fast you can run 2K, right? Like it's all contact, it's all goal specific, working with people. But I think there's a middle ground between, like, some days it's suck it up and train hard, right? Other days it's like, hey, like, if you are training hard, you're doing a good job, tracking your sets and reps, like, you're looking at your if hypertrophy is your goal, you're seeing body composition changes. If strength or power is your goal, you're seeing lifts go up, you're seeing sprint times go down, right? Those are all great feedbacks, right? If you do a couple jumps at the start of your workout, it's like, oh, there we go. It's like, even though I feel like shit today, I'm tired, but like, I'm hitting farther than normal. You know what? Maybe it's just it's a mental thing today, right? So I think and that's where my job comes in, right? Like, working with people, building relations, getting to know them. So when they come in and train with me, it's like, okay, are you really tired, or is it just
you're looking for an excuse?
Exactly, right? You just need a little kick in the butt today, or vice versa, right? Like, I've been seeing you 5 times a week, sometimes twice a day the last month. Like, yeah, no shit, you're tired. Or I know you just competed in something last weekend, of course you're tired. Like, yeah, let's take that easy week. Let's listen to the watch sleep scores and recovery and all that stuff today.
Yeah. So you think there's a time and a place for that, but like, don't really lean on those like analytics and the tech and the the Whoops and the Garmin.
You gotta do both.
Yeah. You kind of gotta play by feel, analyze the data, analyze how you feel, and then take your best foot forward.
Yeah, it's a puzzle, right? You're getting all these different variables, and once you get it, you kind of process it, and you make that decision based on your knowledge, your experience, knowing that athlete, that client, that kind of thing.
Yeah, my problem is I don't want to let anything go, and I need to be the top at both.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? You hear about hybrid athletes. There's no reason you can't train both. But the one I always try to tell people is, like, the body is like a bank account, right? You can work, you can save, you can invest, but at any one given time, if you say, I want a car, I want a house, right, and you don't have the money, tough, right? Like, you don't have the resources to get that, right? It's the same thing. It's like, I want to squat 500 pounds and I want to run, a marathon in this time, right?
It's not going to do it.
But there's no reason you can't do it.
Right.
But it's realistic, right? Can you do both maximally at the same time? No. So there's a trade-off. Do you take more time working with a little bit of both? You tailor your week to, have strength days, have conditioning days, have your strength work kind of complement that running, focusing on single legs, focusing on kind of joint durability and stuff, right? Focusing on muscle endurance, right? And then also you have your days of high strength, right? You can train both concurrently. You just have to be realistic with, if I'm doing both, I'm not going to get to necessarily one as fast as I might if I'm just training and focusing on one thing.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's like, just to take on the example of like getting ready for that ultra. Like, I was kind of doing that because I was also shared with you, I've been having a bit of a neck in, like, chronic. Yeah. It's pretty well, I might as well call it chronic. It's been too long that it's been going on. But I kind of backed away a couple days a week from jiu-jitsu and I started the running.
Yeah.
Also because I knew that there'd still be a benefit. I wouldn't get quite as much jiu-jitsu. I'd still get some good cardio. I'd get to work towards that goal, get that pent-up energy that's not getting placed somewhere and put it in the running. So it was still like a good relief. But, man, I tell you, you're talking about, like, making withdrawals and deposits in your account.
Yeah.
Like, I was running in the overdraft by the end of that, man.
Absolutely.
Like, deep.
And I mean, so talking about sort of some of the mechanisms of fatigue, right? Obviously, there's your muscles, right? We have our fuel for our muscles that we deplete when we're training. But and those muscles recover on a pretty short scale, right? Within you work out for about 24 to 48 hours, depending on some other factors. You're primed to take in protein, take in carbs, and start repairing and rebuilding. But our tendons, our ligaments, they don't receive the same kind of blood flow. So they don't get that nice exchange of, okay, let's take out the damage, let's bring in the nutrients, the repairing mechanisms, right? So, they take a little longer necessarily to feel sore and painful and stuff. But the recovery scale too is going to be, a little slower. They take less damage, but over time they recover slower. So that damage kind of compounds, right? Same thing with bones, same thing with even our nervous system, right? Like we electrolytes, that's what they're for. It's that kind of that electrical charge, that switch that fires from the brain to the muscle. So we literally deplete those when we train, right? Neurons they're an element within our body, right? Like we use them. They take energy, right? They're a tissue that can be fatigued and depleted and damaged, right? So just like, muscle, we use them, that we fatigue them. There has to be recovery. But again, that scale is there, maybe the recovery takes, kind of has to take a couple sessions to sort of compound. But when it does, you really notice it when you hit that sort of almost over, that overdrawn, right? That overreaching level. It takes a little bit longer to bounce back up past that kind of fatigue state to where you're at sort of a recovered or then kind of that adaptation state. So, after something big like your ultramarathon, again, mentally taxing, just physically, it's a feat. It's a physical feat to run. What was it, 52K? You said
my goal was 52, but I come a lap short.
Okay, so
mind you, I was doing a lot.
Yeah,
and then I went to Jamaica too, so I was gone for a week. I never ran the last week. I was sick.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't want to downplay. Like, I trained hard. I could have trained better.
Yeah.
And by better, that probably means less jiu-jitsu.
Well, and it's not necessarily less, but whenever we train, there's a trade-off of volume and intensity, right? So if you want to do running and conditioning, we need that aerobic, that low intensity, low level conditioning. It's super important for I guess jiu-jitsu for like kind of in between sort of exchanges, right? It's scramble, it's stop, and in between matches, right? But it's also jiu-jitsu is very intense, very explosive, very big ranges on a full body, right? Very fatiguing. And again, just spending that what we have in the bank account for that day, right?
Yeah, man.
So very intense, right? So there is always going to be a trade-off of how much of something can we do and how hard can we do it, how intensely can we do it, and so you can go in and that's when you can work your instructionals, right? And work your if you're doing something else. And our club's great for it. It's not like whoever's teaching is like, no, like fuck you, you're doing exactly what I'm saying when I'm saying it. It's like, you're in here, you're spent, like you want to flow roll, like you want to do just some drilling, you're not going all out, like sweet, awesome. Like I think that's a really important piece and there's a discipline to that too, of understanding like when to dial it back and when it's appropriate to dial it back. Because if you're doing it too much, you're not going to improve. You're not training hard. You're not getting
neck
better.
Injury like me.
Exactly. When maybe you should be dialing it back a bit, you're a little less recovered, or your recovery, it's going to be a little longer, a little less full, just because you're doing so much.
Yeah, man. I remember like talking about recovery and just like trying to improve and being annoyed with it because they're not seeing quite the improvement. It's like back to the hybrid training thing. It's like it's tough, and it's like. I was talking to my wife. I'd be looking on Strava, like that's the running app, right? And like, man, I got like these bunch of guys. Like one of the guys that organizes the social, one of the leads, like he can run 5K. I seen him post on his Strava in like a 3.23 kilometer pace per minute pace.
Yeah.
So like, there's a bunch of fast guys. I'll be looking like, because I'm always comparing my pace to their pace. I'll be like, man, Caitlin, like talking to my wife, be like, look how fast this guy ran or gal, because they've got a bunch of real quick women in that race too. Like one gal came second. She was savage. She lapped me like so many times. It was it was demoralizing. It was great. But she's like, yeah, Chris, like, what else do they do? I go, well, I don't, maybe a little bit of strength training, but I think they're mostly runners. So like, she's like, yeah. She's like, you're 190 pounds and you strangle your friends for fun most days, like in the mornings. Like, you can only do so much, which it's like, it's very true, but like, I just don't accept it.
And that's one of the big, you know, when you talk about programming and training and stuff, one of the big ones is the law of specificity, right? If you want to get a better bench press, why are you swimming laps in the pool?
Right.
You know, if you want to be the best runner you can be, there's obviously training that you need to do and should do. And it's not necessarily training that's going to peak your performance, but sometimes training is to keep you healthy or to maintain something so that you can do your sport or activity. Like one of the things I try to explain to people, I even had an email, you know, my son's a U13 hockey goalie. He's done some of the on ice goalie stuff. Like, what goalie specific training do you offer? And I'm like, well, honestly, like at that age, and even I'd say up to, you know, 16, you can start to dabble a bit, you know, up to 16 to 18. And then after that, it gets, you know, there is some wear and tear. There is some more kind of athlete specific stuff, but, you know, especially in you know, in using sport as a context, like there's two people are focused on doing the specific in the weight room. And if the specific was the only thing that worked, why wouldn't you just do more of your sport? Right? Like, why wouldn't you just do more of that same thing? And it's the point of the, you know, my job is to fill the buckets that your sport's not doing. So in season, I shouldn't have to do a lot of conditioning work because
you're doing your thing.
Exactly. Right. So I can focus on early in the week, not a lot of practice load. Okay, sweet. Let's have a heavy lift. Let's maintain some of those strength qualities. You know, maybe obviously not training as hard as we would or out of season, but let's maintain that, you know, through this off season. So we're not starting from 3 steps behind, right? We're just starting from where we left off. You know, so specificity is extremely important for things like conditioning and strength, but it's like within the sport context. But like you're talking about, you know, your hip hurting or your neck hurting and stuff. It's or you know, just sort of saying like, you know, just do the sport more to get better at it, right? There's things of there's overuse, there's burnout mentally and physically, and then there's things like, again, a big thing that I think a strength coach job is not to make a kid good at or not to make someone good at a sport. It's to give them all of the physical abilities to make them strong enough to hold a position, to in, you know, BJJ, to have good enough posture to not get, you know, knocked over and choked, right? And in hockey, to be able to hold a hockey stance, you know, it's who cares?
Sturdy.
Yeah, exactly, right? And if you can't hold that, then who cares how hard you can necessarily push forwards? If you can't maintain that stance, you're gonna get slow
the puck or whatever.
Exactly, right?
You can't get to the net.
Yeah, if you're not strong enough or fast enough to create some speed with that, right? With a shot, like who cares, you know, what kind of stick you have or how many you know, shooting clinics you go to. So it's you know, the job of, say, like the strength coach in the athlete kind of context is going to be sort of to fill those buckets that aren't getting filled through sports. So in season, it's keeping them healthy, managing training load. It's maintaining, you know, the off-season gains, because things like speed and power depreciate very quickly. And as much as, you know, sport's going to be dynamic and fast-paced and stuff, you know, so like certain ones are, right? You know, the reason we train is because, you know, a squat is a lot better to get stronger legs than playing more baseball for a pitcher who needs stronger legs, right? So let's squat them and then send them back so they have this physical skill to then transfer with their technical, their sport coaches, right? But on the flip side of that, again, me sitting on fences in the middle of things, right? Like there's sport specific conditioning, right? If you want to, you know, there's technical aspects of a sport that lend themselves to, you know, how fast, how strong, how powerfully can you execute something, right? If you know, that coordination aspect that you're going to get from repetition. So, you know, kind of talking about specificity and you know, training specifically, it's like there's, like you said, we can do both, right? You can get strong and you can get super fit and great cardio, but there's only so many resources to grow and recover and adapt from the training. So, you know, it's being realistic with what's the time course of your goals, where are your priorities, and then getting specific based on that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, sounds like maybe I've been doing a little bit too much just doing the things, and I'm not like, I'll be honest, I'm just doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm just doing a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not like breaking it down and like, I got to schedule it out a little bit better.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of people do, right? It's just most of us are used to no pain, no gain.
Yeah, man, that's
more is better, right? Like it's, and sometimes that, to a point that's the case, but and again, it depends, right? It's all context specific.
Yeah.
Like you were saying when talking to your wife, like what else do you do? What are the outside stressors in your life? Our body doesn't, it just gets stressed, right? Whether it's a stress of an exercise or stress of just mental anguish from work or something like that, right? It's a stress response. It's going to affect sort of, our nutrient breakdown and uptake. It's going to affect our recovery, right? So kind of that what else do they do question is really important when you're working with anyone. It's what else and that's a big part of my job is managing stressors. Sure, the textbook says if I train you 5 sets of 5, you're going to get stronger, but like, you have 3 kids, you sleep 4 hours a night, you're a student in exams, right? Like,
she can't bring you through the gauntlet every day.
Exactly. So again, managing kind of the intensity and how much work based on how they're recovering.
Yeah. And my wife, I'd be like super annoyed at myself because I'm like not up to standard where I want to be. And she'd be like, hey, she's like, it's okay to take a break.
Yeah.
You just did a lot of stuff and you've been doing a lot of stuff for a while. Like you can take, I haven't ran in a month.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's okay. And I was like, it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah.
Well, and she's like, Chris, just take it easy.
And again, like even
my voice
at the top level, like pro athletes, they take time off their sport at the end of the season to, mentally and physically refresh, right? And I mean, the body's extremely intuitive. If you're overworking it, like it's not going to be one workout that does it, but like again, that fatigue will compound and eventually you're going to go from a fatigue state to you're in like you're past the threshold that you're at a big risk for injury of something, right? And then if you don't take the break, your body's going to force you to take that break.
Right. And that might be a compound of my neck injury and hips
well that's it, right?
Things, so.
And sometimes it's better to take that week or two of lighter reduced training at one time to kind of, instead of getting that bad injury that's going to take you out for longer, that's going to take you even farther from your goals because you're on the shelf for that much longer. Instead of improving, you're working on recovering.
Yeah. So speaking of that, I'm sure people that are getting into fitness or thinking about working out or have been doing it for a while, in like level of importance, like I'll just name them and you tell me which ones, and maybe you can expand on why. Somebody that's looking to get healthy.
Yeah.
Obviously a fitness routine, definitely important.
Yeah.
Diet, proper diet, nutrition, macronutrients, vitamins, will that be a micro? Super important. Sleep, also very important. Where would you say, what is the top priority, like in ranking? And, what would you say are maybe some tips or tricks to kind of keep that house in order once you kind of have that hierarchy set up?
Again, it's going to be a little bit of everything. I think I think strength training is one of the best things to do because again, like, that foundation for me is strength on everything, right? If like I said, if you're stronger, you move more efficiently, right? Every time you take a step at that same body weight, if you're stronger, you're using less of your kind of that top end strength to move yourself forward, right? It's more efficient. It's less. It's better for conditioning. It's better for speed, right? If you have the strength, then it's just teaching you how to access it faster. So I think strength training is going to be one of those biggest ones. But one of the great things is when we're new to training. So again, someone who's going to be a little less fit, You hear about noob gains.
Yeah,
It's a real thing. Like it's the first time you drank coffee, a small did the trick, right?
Just like, rah.
And then 2 years later, the pot's empty and you're pissed off because now you got to make another one.
Yeah.
It's you. The more you are exposed to something, the less sensitive you get. But on the flip side, at the start, a little goes a really long way. So that's when we can do some of that training where we're doing a little bit of everything, right? We're doing that strength training because as far as getting healthy goes, it's increasing muscle mass, right? So more muscle's very metabolic. So, it's going to do things like help you better uptake glucose, right? It's going to help, a lot of processes as far as storage, production, and use of hormones, as far as signaling just things like survival and how easy that is to do for your body, right? Again, like that strength is going to, as we talk about aging, right? Like literally just getting up off the chair or the toilet or getting up the stairs, right? Like that's a real concern for some people.
Down the road, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like that, getting a strength training routine is going to influence a lot of that. It's tendon health, right? It's that stretch shortening, and again, as long as we manage load, and how much we're training, we're gonna stress it, but then we recover and adapt beyond that, right? So we've gotten stronger, more dense, durable tendons and joints. It's why, kind of running was super popular for health, but it's sort of not fallen to the wayside, but strength training has definitely come up, I think, because running by nature, you're burning the energy. You're probably going to get a bit lighter the more you run. You're at some point, you're not providing any more stimulus to, say, your bones or your muscle beyond what you're already accustomed to. So, the strength training, the weight keeps going up. You're stressing the bones. So things like, especially the female population at risk of osteoporosis, right? Like talking about longevity and health, I think strength training is one of the kings, because just maintaining, that muscle mass alone is going to be a big help. And you can do things like, again, like what F45 does, right? Addressing multiple things at once. You do the strength training movements, you give 15 seconds of break, right? So then you have to go light. You might get lots of repetitions in, so it becomes a muscle endurance, a little bit of that kind of cardio conditioning side plus the strength side, right? So
touch.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it's a little bit of both, or you can split your sessions up, because you can get a lot out of a little when you're getting started. You can do one lift a week, one conditioning session a week, or 2 in 1 kind of thing, right? And then obviously, like, conditioning is going to be such an important piece, right? Keeping your heart and lungs healthy, that's a no-brainer. And there's lots of ways to make it fun. Like a lot of my low intensity kind of ones that I would replace, say, an hour on the elliptical or something with, right? I'll do kind of a 30 seconds on, 10-second break to get to the next thing, right? And it'll just be low intensity. It'll be, say, like a sled push, a kettlebell swing, and an ab exercise. And I just go back and forth between the three, right? And that's my cardio. That's my muscle endurance, right? So there's my conditioning. So there's ways to kind of make it fun and enjoyable for you. Like, yeah, sometimes training's going to suck, but you should, whether it's you're enjoying the fact that you're working towards your goal, getting yourself more healthy, or enjoy the actual activity itself, there should be a bit of enjoyment factor, especially when we're talking about general population. When we're talking about high performance sport or professional sport, tough, right?
Some days
you have a job
have to
do.
get through it. Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
Right? But there's, at the kind of, again, just probably most of the people that might be listening to this, like general population, it's just, you want to find something you enjoy to do. So that's a big piece. The other piece is, I think, because, talking about someone who maybe has a bit more weight and wants to lose it, obviously training is going to get you there. But if we want to look at what has the overall effect, if we're looking at kind of the pie chart, we got about 20% of that effect of weight loss is coming from training and just increased energy expenditure. But 80% is going to come from diet, from your calories. And this is weight loss or weight gain, really, as far as what's going to affect it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you can train as hard as you want, but if you are consuming more calories than you burn, there's more energy. So you're going to store it. You're going to create mass, right? You're going to gain weight.
It's those classic people that are like, I don't understand. I eat so much and my scale's not going up. It's like, well, you're not eating enough.
Exactly. You're not eating enough, or you're moving too much.
Like, you don't understand. I eat so much. It's like, no, you think you do.
Exactly. I mean, like one of the big proponents is learning kind of, what are calories, right?
Yeah,
like
most people have no idea.
Well, that's it, right? I say what makes up a calorie. Like most people kind of give me a blank stare. It's, you're talking about those macro micronutrients.
Like 1 gram of protein is 4 calories.
Exactly.
1 gram of carbohydrates is 4, and then 1 gram of fat is 9, right?
Oh man, you're good.
And then if there's fiber, then you can kind of think.
I
don't count it, but like some people say, it's like, I'm gonna mess it up, so I'm not gonna say. But like, there's like some kind of discounting factor. If you're eating fiber, technically, anyway, I would just count all the calories.
And that's it, right? Just going for those 3 macros, the protein, carb, and fat. And like usually when I'm working with people, like that's the first thing I do. It's kind of the first principle as far as if you want to lose or gain weight is calories. It's energy in, energy out. You want to gain weight, you need a surplus of energy. If you want to lose weight, you need a deficit of it. And I mean,
and people hate this part too. It's like you could be eating diet of ice cream, and if it's under the calories, your maintenance, you'll still lose weight. If you eat too much, then you gain weight. But people don't like. I mean, don't just eat a diet of ice cream. But I'm just using it as an example.
Like, I better make sure you put that disclaimer.
Yeah. Some people refute the calories. Well, so it has to be healthy food. It's like, well, no, actually, it could be all junk.
Yeah,
but if it's under your metabolic maintenance rate,
exactly,
you're still gonna lose. And
then we talk about, hopefully people don't just listen to this and think like, all right, I can just eat, it's if it fits your macros, people, right? Like, we do go into sort
flexibility.
Exactly. And that's talking about longevity and consistency within, healthy behaviors. Flexibility is so important. And I mean, you can have, 200 calories from a piece of pizza is the same as 200 calories from apples, right? It's just, the apples are going to leave you a lot more damn full, but
you probably eat a
still
truckload of apples.
Exactly, right? And so there is that piece of it. So as far as weight loss goes and diet, like the key principle on that one is going to be calories in, calories out, right? But when we want to talk about health, when we want to talk about fueling performance, when we want to talk about these long-term outcomes and not being deficient in something to the point that we have a chronic disease a little later down the road, that's when we look at the macronutrients and the micronutrients. So the vitamins, the minerals, that stuff. And
that is important.
A big piece too in performance, if you want to talk about weight loss, the macros become really important because, our body's not, there's no targeted fat loss, right? Our body's not that going to discriminate, right? It has energy stores. If you are not providing it with that energy through food and it's burning it, it will get it from somewhere, right? Like I said, the body's annoyingly intuitive. It's annoyingly efficient. And so, it's pulling that from our stores. Protein, carb, fat. Those make up our calories, our energy. So our protein being stored as muscle mass, as tendon, ligaments, as that food we consume that we want to be repairing those after hard training. If we're losing weight, right, our body's, our ability to kind of build that muscle mass might be compromised just because it's that those calories have to go somewhere else, right? Survival is the main, the main goal of the body, right? Not building or maintaining muscle. So the macronutrients get really important when things like if we know our body's going to break down everything indiscriminately, let's leverage our diet. Let's increase the protein intake, right? And there's a lot of benefits there as far as how full protein leaves you feeling. That's a huge piece of it, right? And again, that just replacing that broken down muscle protein that is happening just through our training and our energy deficit so that we can recover for our training, so that we can burn more energy by being active. But not only that, but like kind of, like I said, with the effects of diet and training on, say, weight loss or gain, I like to frame training around the health outcomes, the muscle mass and strength, the mobility, the stability, the conditioning, the lung, heart, and health, right? So if you're so sucked from a diet or you're just overeating the wrong things, you're not going to be able to train and reap those benefits as well. So that's a big piece too, is learning calorie balance. And then once you learn that, then you can start to learn, okay, what's protein, carb, fat? How much of each do I need? How can I leverage these to fit my goals, right? Not to ramble on too long, but like same thing, sort of weight loss, we can leverage fat being over double the calories of protein and carbs per gram, right? So, if we were assuming 1 gram of each of those nutrients took up equivalent space in our stomach, right? We're getting more calories out of our diet per each gram reduction of fat. Not to say you can do that unlimited, because fat's super important for hormone production and just general health processes and recovery and everything. But again, like, there's things we can do beyond calories to kind of leverage the effectiveness of our diet. And again, not weight loss, but our diet just being the food we consume for fuel and survival and performance.
Yeah. And where would you say, like, in level of importance, would you see like sleep fall in there?
Oh, sleep. You know, I get so tired of everyone talking about the Theraguns and. Oh no, I get tired because of toddlers, not because of.
Oh, yeah.
But no, but you know, of people talking about, like, I need the Theragun and you know, as much as cool as, you know, like the infrared, and I need the cold tub and all this shit. It's like. And you look in their diet shit, and they're sleeping 4 hours a night because they're staying up binging, you know, the next the next true crime on which I don't blame them on that one, but like but again, it's sleep. Oh man, sleep is king, because we want to talk about kind of our body's energy systems and sort of what's available as far as recovery and replenishing goes. When we're awake, right? This is our awake mode, right? We're moving, we're mobilizing a lot of our stores to give us energy to sit, to talk, to think, right? Like our thoughts, our speech, everything is burning energy, right? Each little thing is pulling resources from our body, right? So if we're continuing to be active and awake, we're continuing to burn energy at a certain rate. How is your body able to kind of focus more on some of these recovery and these replenishing processes? If you're constantly calling for, you know, your body's calling for a certain hormone because you're awake, because you're moving, because you're active, how do you replenish that? Or does your body start to get less sensitive to certain things, right? So much important processes happen when we're sleeping, as far as recovery, growth and development, and you know, replenishing those gas tanks, replenishing those nutrients within our body, that when we're missing sleep, like the amount of recovery that we can accomplish is so compromised, because not only did you not give time to recover and replenish and do those processes that your body almost needs, that standby mode, right? It needs to do in the background. If other things are going on, it can't run the update,
right?
Like
when you swipe into another app on your phone and it's still doing stuff.
Exactly, right?
Maybe not a great analogy,
but no, it's the same thing. It's like, hey, you're using your phone, you can't shut down and update it right now, right? You can't upgrade to the next level right now, because you're still burning it out. So it's kind of the similar idea. When we sleep, it's all those processes, those recovery, that regeneration, that growth and adaptation. That's when it happens.
The RPMs come down a little bit.
Exactly. You know, you can train as hard as you want, but if you don't give your body time to uptake the protein after a workout, right? If you don't provide it with the time and the resources, it doesn't matter how much of it's there, kind of thing. So I really think sleep is the most important one, and and that's one that you
number
see.
one.
Oh, number one for recovery. Number one. You can be as fit as you want. A week of not sleeping, and you're gonna really decline.
Yeah. Because how long can you go physiologically without sleep before you die?
I'm not sure. I don't think it's too long.
Yeah. It's like
a course of
not much more than 2 or 3 days. I think.
So I mean, like, that just goes to show the importance right there. And like, even some of the strategies of just getting to bed before midnight, right? Like trying to right from a baby, you create a sleep routine. You want to get them in the order. It's in this order. You do bath time, then you do story time, then you do bedtime.
So their internal clock kind of knows.
Exactly, right? People, adults can do that, right? You can.
I do it. I'm in bed 9:30. My body wants to get up to go to class for 6 a.m.
Exactly. I mean, even on days that you don't have to, you're still up at that time.
Yeah.
And
that's the days I take off.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, fuck, I should have just went.
Yeah. And it's, sometimes you do.
Yeah.
But again, like,
it's my Goggins telling me.
But like, maintaining those habits, like, even if you're getting up and you just go watch TV, that your off day, right? It is your rest day. You get up and it's like, I'm up, I might as well check my emails now. So some mindless stuff. Like,
I've been reading a lot lately.
And that's a huge one too, right? If you want to talk about like trying to avoid, say, screen time before sleep, because that will affect kind of quality of sleep or how fast you can fall asleep, right? That's a great option. Reading, right? Creating that as part of your routine.
Yeah, I try and I'm not good at it. I'm not gonna say I'm the best. My wife can tell you, because I never used to be a big social media guy. Now I do this. I do the real estate bit. But man, if I can get off that thing, if you don't hear it from me, if you're a client, different. I might look if we have something going on. But after 8:00, if your name shows up on my phone and it's ringing, you better be a good friend, because I might not answer.
Man, I'm the same way, right? There does have to be kind of and
Some
things
barriers,
like you have your wife, friends, things, right? There is, you want to have your own time, as far as even overloading things like work and all that stuff, right? It's the same as training. There's a trade-off of volume and intensity, right? Sometimes you gotta just shut it off, give yourself that recovery, and then you can you're better off for it, right?
Yeah, man. So let's just recap. So we'll say
Absolutely.
in order of importance, and you correct me if I'm wrong, we would say sleep, numero 1.
Yeah, let's get sleep in there, because again, if you're not sleeping, everything else is going to fall off.
And now you correct me if I'm wrong, but we talked about kind of the 80-20 rule. If your diet's not in check, then your fitness isn't really
That's it, right?
play. So diet, number 2.
Yep.
And then your physical workout routine, fitness plan, number 3.
That's it. I mean, probably that 2 and 3 can sometimes change, right? You can have, they're both going to play off each other, right?
But
you can train a little bit, and as that diet's getting in check, or vice versa, getting in that diet in check might be what you need to say. Lose a few pounds that, doing the treadmill or doing a couple squats.
Right.
It's a little bit easier, a little bit.
Or you can roll it the other way.
Exactly, right?
Get a little stronger, or or you lose a little bit of weight, lets you push a little bit harder in your workout, you get a little stronger.
Exactly.
Or you do a little bit more work, you lose a bit more weight without even dieting too hard, then you adjust the diet, and then you get even better. So yeah, definitely flip-flop. But I can definitely say with my neck, sleep's definitely probably numero uno, especially for me. Because if you don't have the energy to get through your diet and your workout and your work day and all the other life tasks that you have, you're probably not going to make it anyway.
Well, that's it, right? And then kind of talking about the recovery, right? If again, it's just putting you in you're starting that much farther back the next day. If you don't sleep, you're not recovered. Your neck's that much closer to getting that point of that, so fatigued that it's at such a high risk for injury again, right? So if you want to maintain that high training output, it's only getting closer and closer to getting re-injured, right? So all those recovery mechanisms are so important.
So important. Yes. Well, man, I think that's a great place to wrap it up. I know you got places to be. I got a couple things to do. So I just wanted to thank you for coming on, Matt. And if anybody needs Matt Short's services, where can we find you?
You can oh man, can we go back around on that one, because I completely forgot what my Instagram is.
Oh yeah, well, cut it out. Go ahead.
I know the email off the top of my head, but sorry about that.
No apologies necessary, man. mshort_.
I think
SCS.
There we go. Yeah. Awesome. We can try that one more time.
Yeah, no worries. So where can we find you on Instagram?
So you can find me at mshort_SCS. If you're interested in programming or anything, just shoot me a DM on that one. Yeah, nice and easy to find there. I'll usually respond in 24 hours or so. Again, not after 8 p.m.
Yeah, not after 8. You're getting an 8 a.m. response after 8 p.m., right?
Yeah, well, man, with me, it's you might get a 5 a.m. response. You'll be up on my time.
Yeah. That's it. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks so much. I appreciate you coming out. We'll see you on the mats.
Awesome. Thanks for having me,
All
Chris.
right, bro.